All right. Welcome back to the Coach Steve show. With all my new technology we got going on, we're going to see what happens when it's all said and done. It might be just audio, but we are welcoming back one of my favorite segments that we have not done since July. And I did not realize it had been since July.
Oh, wow. It's been a long time. You've been a little busy.
I've been busy, but also uh, there wasn't movies, I guess, to come out.
You also just saw Shang Chi, so that was the big. Did we talk? We did the one we did in July. I assume we talked about Black Widow, right?
That's the last one. We
And
talked about Black Widow.
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, we did all that. So I have a Google Doc right now with all this stuff, and I looked at it and I go, oh my God, we probably need 4 hours. So we're gonna do the best we can to make it an hour and 20 minutes. But you heard Logan Lee, so yes, that means Geek Corner is back for a new segment. This is one of my favorites because I'm not just a coach now; I can be a human being and talk about movies. But yes, this is Geek Corner where we discuss. I guess it's mainly Marvel until I branch out and watch other TVs and movies and all that stuff.
Right.
But you've already heard him. It's my cinema expert, the man, the myth, the legend. He is also the co-host of his own podcast, the No One Asked Us podcast, which I'm trying to get people to subscribe to mine. I'm going to make it my mission for people to subscribe to yours to get involved, to grow that one.
Yeah, so just a fun little note about ours. We don't get a lot of listens. Our numbers aren't great on a consistent basis. But we did an emergency pod a few weeks ago when the Cardinals fired Mike Schilt as their manager because Craig's a Cardinal fan, my co-host, and he wanted to talk about that because we did an emergency pod at the trade deadline where I talked about the Cubs stuff. So he wanted to do one after the Schilt trade, and that just blew up. I mean, we were averaging 20 to 30 just on YouTube alone. I don't know all the rest of the stats because he has access to that stuff. But we've been averaging 20 to 30 YouTube views a show. We do one a week, so that's not very many. But then that Mike Schilt one that we did, last I checked, was well over 300. It was just crazy. Just that one blew up. And we've gone back to normal views. The rest of that one just must have got into YouTube's algorithm with people searching for Cardinals stuff about the Schilt firing. It was just kind of funny that one just kind of blew up. And then now came back to earth a little bit. So I appreciate you spreading the word. We'll start doing the same thing on ours, but I think you probably have more followers than we do at this point. So I'm not sure what good we're going to do. But yeah, so it's been fun. Let's see. I'm looking at it now. 491 views from the Mike Schilt. All of our others have been 14, 23, 26. And that one had nearly 500.
I haven't had a 400 one, so you guys are.
Well, that's the only one we've had. So
believe it or not, I think my most viewed one was a Fear the Walking Dead.
I'll tell you, just from a, talking shop here before we start talking about this other stuff, it was only 35 minutes, which most of our others we had been pushing 2 hours for a few weeks in a row. So this one was only 35 minutes. It was specific. The headline was Cardinals fire Mike Schilt. So just talking from a YouTube perspective, I have no idea about the hits it had on Spotify or Apple, that stuff, but just YouTube. It was very specific. It was just about one thing. We did at the very end talk about something else. I think it was about the James Bond movie. I did ask him a question about that at the very end, but it was short. It was precise. It was exactly what it was. And we had a lot of people comment not about us, just about the firing. And it just worked. So I don't know. But again, we've had 3 more since then, and we've had no more than 23 views on YouTube. So
well,
it is what it is.
Right before we start, people said it's always the title. The title is what gets it. And I learned that. So for Geek Corners, I went back on YouTube and tried to title them Geek Corner and put Black Widow, and hopefully that's whatever. One of ours has over 120 some, and I can't remember which one it was. But that's the title. So on mine, I've learned quickly, you can title it whatever you want and then talk about whatever you want.
Yeah. It's all a work in progress. You've been doing this for obviously far longer than we have. In fact, I've said before, you were the one that kind of inspired me to do this. So I came on your show, was that last December, probably? Last November, something like that?
Yeah.
That was like the first time we did it. We did a Geek Corner because
I think your Christmas lights up. That's what I remember. It was Christmas lights were up.
Yes, the Christmas lights are still up. They never actually came down in this room, but yeah, it was somewhere around there. And then it was at the early 2021 that Craig and I started our show. So yeah, it's obviously still a work in progress for both of us. But
I was your guinea pig because you came on and I said come back again. You said we'll see, and then afterward you were like I'm down, and I was like all right, here we go.
And so let's talk some Marvel. How about?
Yeah, I even made a Google Doc while I was at school. Nobody told anybody, but I was sitting there like I'm going to type up. And then I, like my very first thing, I was trying to go in order of like what came out because I saw Shang Chi way after, but What If was out, and I watched the first episode, and then I got so busy that I just was like, let me build it up, and then I'll watch it. I didn't know if you want to discuss that or not. I actually liked it, but I only liked.
We can talk about all of it. Yeah.
What If came out, and everybody knows it's the animated. Well, first of all, spoilers. If you've never watched any of this, just stop listening, especially when we get to Eternals. Like,
we're gonna have spoilers for what are we talking about?
Shang-Chi,
Loki.
We already did.
What If? Oh, we did Loki. So Shang-Chi, What If, and Eternals. We're gonna have some spoilers for. So
and if we have time, maybe we'll do our MCU rankings. I did them in like 2 minutes, so some of them may have to change. But
it's okay.
It's also. This is going to come out Monday on November 8th. Today is Stranger Things Day, because on this day back in the 1980s, Will Byers was taken to the Upside Down.
Oh my goodness. I didn't even realize that.
That's why I'm wearing this.
Okay. That's good. I like that. I'm wearing my Toy Story shirt.
And Logan, right before this,
Geek Corner,
another minute trailer for Stranger Things season 4 came out this morning.
I didn't see that either. You're way ahead of me on the Stranger Things stuff.
It's going to be around spring break.
See, I was really pulling for Christmas, but I think they just got delayed, so far delayed in this that just didn't seem like it was.
That could be season 5. I hope they're filming it back to back because we've waited so long. But
yeah,
that could be.
That's gonna be the last one, right?
I think so. I think they said.
I think 5 is the last.
I think they planned it out for 5 seasons, and then after that, they kind of didn't know. But I just want to bring it up real quick. But yes, What If came out. Now, I watched the first episode because it was said that this was going to have some type of impact on the MCU that we're watching now. Whether that is we're going to revisit some of these in actual movies or in actual TV shows. I know you and I texted about it. It was good for what it was. I think it was literally, if we never see any of these storylines again in the Marvel universe, it was a good filler to get us through until Shang-Chi and Eternals, and then Hawkeye will be coming out in November. I enjoyed probably 4 episodes of it. The rest of it, I'm just kind of like, okay, we could have gone without all 10 of these. Like,
right.
Of course, the Doctor Strange one I loved, and I think everybody loved that one because it had the most going on and explained.
I think that was, in my opinion, that was by far the best episode. Was the Doctor Strange one,
and I liked the very last one. The very last one I liked.
Yeah.
Because then it made sense. It all started to come together. And one thing I was shocked about was how many characters they did bring back to do voices. Some I forgot they actually brought them back. Now I was disappointed.
There's a lot that they didn't, though, too.
Right. Like, I kind of wish they would have brought all the Guardians of the Galaxy voices. I wish they would have.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't. I don't know if it was scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, I don't know the whole story on that either. Who they brought back and who they didn't. I don't know why that was. It was Chadwick Boseman's last ever performance, I guess, if you want to call it that. I mean, his vocal performance at least, before he passed, suddenly a few years ago. So that was last year, I guess, right? 2020.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was that was his last. But yeah, I don't really know what the reasoning was for why they brought back some people and not others. I'm sure it had something to do with contracts or negotiations or schedules or whatever. But it's not like voicing animated stuff is really time consuming. I'm sure that most of those people that they brought in recorded their stuff in a day. So I don't know that it's necessarily a timing issue, and they can really do it anywhere that has a vocal recording studio. So, I don't know. It just kind of depends. So I don't know the whole story there. yeah, I don't know.
But what I am curious about, and nobody knows the answer, and we'll never know the answer. I heard something about there might be a season 2, but that could just be diving into like, oh, this is easier than filming an actual movie.
Yeah.
But
so
was it Tom Hiddleston that said this is going to have some type of impact?
Somebody has. I don't know if it was him or not. Here's my thing. I didn't dislike What If. I just never fully got invested into What If. But I've also said on here previously that my interest and commitment to these Disney Plus shows has gone down since the very beginning. That's a combination of the show may or may not have been as interesting to me, or the fact that I just got busier and busier, and it was just harder for me to do it. So when WandaVision came out at the beginning of 2021 or whenever that was, I was still working from home. It was a lot easier for me to watch that. I was invested in the lore. I wanted to know what was going to happen next. There was a ton of theories floating around it. And then every series since then, my interest just kind of went further down. And with What If, it's not that I wasn't interested in it. It just never really captured all of my attention. I thought it was creative. I thought the animation was great. I thought the animation was beautiful. I thought that the vocal performances who they did have were great. I thought that some of the episodes were really well done. I don't think they all were necessary. I don't know that any of it was necessary. I don't know what sort of, because they really pitch this as this is going to have implications on the rest of the MCU. And while I'm not saying that that's not true, I just don't really know what those are. If anything, I could totally see Jeffrey Wright, the Watcher, coming up at some point in live action form. I could totally see that happening. The rest of it, though, I mean, at this point, we're just so far deep into the multiverse. Everything is the multiverse now. We finally kind of opened it up with Endgame and with Ant-Man and the Wasp. And then we kind of teased it during Spider-Man Far From Home. Now we're getting the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and this Spider-Man's going to have something to do with this multiverse. Venom, I don't know if you saw Venom. Spoiler alert, I guess, little for the Venom post-credit. That's kind of also teasing some sort of multiverse of some sort. So we're just very deep right now into everything is about the multiverse. Loki was about the multiverse. That doesn't surprise me that they're just feeding into that with Eternals. I thought it was a clever way to do something different. I don't know that it really advances the greater story of the MCU, but I think it was a clever way to do a cheaper version of a TV show that they could do several episodes on, bring in voices that they're familiar with, try out some new stories, see what works, see what doesn't. I thought the zombie episode was very interesting. I do think that was kind of a litmus test sort of for the MCU to see what we can do. I also think it's interesting. This is kind of a sidebar, but the zombie Captain America, Zombie Steve Rogers, is a costume character at Marvel's Disneyland.
Okay.
Part of their park, which Disney, from the parks perspective, has never really gone too hard into, anything too super scary. So for them to have a zombie character as a walk around character is kind of, again, I think it's kind of a litmus test type of thing for Disney in general, for the parks and for the shows and for the movies. They've teased this whole Multiverse of Madness being some sort of a horror movie. So, I think a lot of it was just kind of throw some things out there. We'll see what sticks. We'll see what gets well received. Some of it might show up later. Some of it might not. But either way, I think it was mostly well received from audiences. I never really fell in love with it. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. That doesn't mean I wasn't paying attention or whatever. But I thought it was just an interesting tool for them to use to see, what they can do down the road.
Yeah, I think it's because you didn't have to watch it. Like, again, I think WandaVision scarred everybody, especially you and me, because we were like so deep into the the theories. And also it was COVID. Like I said, if these were coming out on their normal schedule, we would not have time to dive into that. Maybe stuff would be more teased out there because now we have to wait so long.
Yeah.
They can't.
I blame Eric Voss at New Rock Stars. I don't know if you're familiar with New Rock Stars or any of their stuff, but he was one of the driving forces of the whole Mephisto thing. And I was watching all of his theory videos. So yes, for the WandaVision thing, that's just where we were. It's just a different time right now. And I think the Wednesday release has had something to do with it. Now they've been Wednesdays since Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I don't know. I was just never fully invested in it. Doesn't mean it wasn't good, but that's just where I stood on it.
Yeah, and then some of it, the storyline didn't make sense. Like, what if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? I was like, they were never around each other. So I get it. Like, that's the whole point of like, what if these two are, T'Challa becomes Star-Lord? Like, what, like, it's cool. But I think that's why when I saw those type of episodes, I said, okay, I don't have to sit down on Wednesday night and watch this. Now with football, I didn't watch all these till like 2 weeks ago. Like I sat down and I said, I'm just going to watch them.
Yeah.
And it's good. Like if you got a half hour, you're going to watch it. If you've got an hour, you're going to watch 2.
Yeah.
But like you said, maybe we'll see some of these pop up again in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Yep. Yep. No, you made a good point. They weren't really appointment television.
Right.
I think the other 3 shows, especially WandaVision and Loki, were appointment television. What If wasn't. It just wasn't appointment television. I mean, I still watched it on Wednesdays, but it just wasn't that for me, and I don't think it was that for probably the general population. Certainly some people, felt differently, but I just don't think that was really the style of what that show was.
The ones for me that I think they're going to revisit is the Doctor Strange one, because that one was probably, that really told us why the multiverse is so important, because when he's trying to change the past and it keeps happening, I could see that type of thing happening, especially because we'll probably talk about the Spider-Man trailer, because there's already the rumors are swirling. And so I could see that one being revisited. You mentioned the zombie one. That could be a part of that movie where the horror comes in. It was like that episode was a Walking Dead episode. That is exactly what the Walking Dead was. So I think they're going into that. And then the one I could see coming into play is the last 2. What if Ultron won, and then the Watcher and Ultron? Because it's been rumored that Ultron comes back. Like it's been rumored that he's some part. So I see those 3 kind of coming back. The rest were just kind of like, this would be cool if this happened or what have you. I think it'd be cool if Ultron kind of came back in some form, like, and just because it's James Spader, because I think he played the voice perfectly and that was actually him acting it. But those are only 3 I could see coming back. Maybe the Tom Hiddleston stuff, but we'll see what Loki season 2 is. And I don't want to dive into all the theories of it. We will when we get to the Spider-Man trailer, because those swirled right when that happened. And we all saw it a day early. I had to. When it got streamed a day early, I was like, I have to find it and I watch it. And I got to figure it out. And then some new one came out, but the new one that came out only shows like 2 other things. It's nothing important. So those are the only ones I see coming out. But the Doctor Strange one was the best. But I like how it wrapped together. I thought the Watcher was Kang the Conqueror at first, because it kind of looks like that. So talk about the multiverse. Could that just be another variant of Kang the Conqueror? So is that going to make like all that stuff? I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but that were my thoughts when I first saw it.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think that's the story they're going off of in terms of the comics, but I don't know. I think that his character probably will return at some point. We can talk about the Eternals. I thought that was his voice at the end of Eternals. We'll talk about, again, we've already gave the spoiler warning, and we'll talk about Eternals soon, but I thought that was Jeffrey Wright's voice talking to Kit Harington during the post-credit or the mid-credit, whichever it was. I don't know that it was, and I think we've had confirmation that it's not, according to Chloe Zhao, but anyway, I thought that's who that could have been. But I don't think makes a lot of sense. I just thought it was his voice, but I do think his character comes back at some point.
That could be what they're talking about, like impact. Like he could show up in whatever. It could be Doctor Strange, could be Spider-Man. That could be a post-credit scene of Spider-Man. Who knows? I'm not going to dive too deep into all that because WandaVision scarred me for life. And all these theories are going to be right at some point. We just don't know when or where it's going to happen. And they have to. We just don't know when or where. Like Shang Chi, I was wrong on a couple of theories I had. And Eternals, I was wrong on a couple. So I'm like, I'm done. I'm just not going to be right ever again. So on my doc, my Google Doc,
yes,
you can either talk Shang-Chi next or Eternals. It doesn't matter.
Let's talk Shang-Chi.
I loved it.
Yeah, I did too. I did too.
Here's the theme for Shang-Chi and Eternals. They're Marvel movies, but they don't feel like Marvel movies.
Yes, correct.
And I think that's why some of the reviews for both coming into it were so low, but we're moving away from what we know. Now, the characters that we know are going to be there. They're going to have a big part of it. Like Doctor Strange is going to be a huge factor for the rest of these movies. Wanda's going to be huge. Spider-Man's going to be huge. Who else am I missing? Falcon and the Winter Soldier are going to be huge. Like
I don't know the Spider-Man. I don't know the Spider-Man's going to be huge. I think Spider-Man's out of the MCU after this next movie. But we'll talk about that down the road. Yelena from Black Widow will be a big part of the future. But I mean, we also we know we're getting a Blade movie. We know we're getting X-Men. We know we're getting Fantastic Four. Like, there's just so much still coming out that we just I don't know that who they'll keep around and who they won't and all that stuff. With Shang-Chi, my thought during the whole movie was, had it not been for Wong and whatever the other character's name was, they were fighting in that one scene. Had it not been for them showing up, wouldn't have even known it was a Marvel movie. Like it just felt different. It was just a different kind of movie. It really wasn't until the very end when we have the big, and we can talk about that, but the big CGI fight scene at the end, like that was the most Marvel thing of the whole movie. But yeah, it just, it still had its, its Marvel blueprint. I mean, there's still the funny side character, and there's still a cute, marketable action figure toy, stuffed plush toy that they can sell. I mean, there's still those token things, but for the most part, it just felt like its own thing. It had very little to do with the rest of the MCU up until really the very end. I really enjoyed it. I was kind of surprised. I don't have really much of a history with, that style of movie, like the kung fu movies, like that type stuff. So I thought it was great. I thought that it was well casted. I thought that Tony Leung, the villain character, I thought he was great. I thought the guy that played his dad, I thought that was honestly one of the best villains Marvel has ever had. I think you could probably put him in like the top 5. Marvel has a tendency to have some really bad villains. And I think he was easily one of the best they've ever had. Aquafina was funny. I know I enjoyed the way they brought back Ben Kingsley to be the Mandarin from Iron Man 3. Was kind of, I mean, whatever. It made me laugh. He was there for comedic relief, I guess. But yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And spoiler alert, it's the best comic book movie of the year. And we've already had 4 of them at least. So yeah, I think it's great. I was really pleasantly surprised by it, and I'm excited to see what else they do with that franchise.
It felt like a Marvel movie from when we were growing up, where there was not this connection to all of them, if that makes sense. Like when Iron Man came out, it started the MCU, so now all these movies are intertwined. When we were growing up, they were just making the movies to make them. To like, we're going to show this character like That's what it felt like. I feel like they just made this movie to be a good movie, kind of like Black Widow. Black Widow was just a good movie. Like you said, if they didn't have those little characters, if they didn't mention some of the Avenger stuff, you would never have known this was an MCU movie. And
right.
we are diving into like the dad. He's been around for thousands or hundreds of 1,000 years, so he's seen all this stuff. And then, spoiler alert, everybody kind of knows Eternals, same thing. Like they've been around, so now they're kind of opening up all this other stuff. But I really enjoyed it. The comedy was there. It had just enough comedy, if you know what I mean. Like Marvel's a good, even in Eternals had, I think, just enough comedy in it. But I loved it. And then, like you said, it wasn't until the post-credit scene, even then, all of a sudden, I love the post-credit scene. You see Captain Marvel, you see,
Yep.
Hulk is back. He's not the Hulk anymore. He's
Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner. He's himself
in
now.
A cast or in a sling.
He's himself now. So now it all ties back in. And so don't be surprised if we see them in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, because now they're connected to Wong. Don't be surprised if that's if he makes his return.
Right.
But you're right. I enjoyed it. It was a good movie. Like not even a Marvel movie, just a good movie. Thank God the little animal with no eyes or face, nothing happened to him. I was like, I swear to God, I will walk out of this theater if something happens.
Yep. I really enjoyed it. It's as I said, it's my favorite comic book movie of the year. It's one of my favorite movies of the year in general up to this point. Now there's still a lot I still need to see, but as of right now, it's certainly up there in the conversation. I just had a really good time with that movie. I thought that it was a great introduction to that character and that story. It's been a while since I've seen it now. So, and I teased it. The biggest issue I had was the third act scene, the fight scene, the war scene. That villain, the villain with his dad, whatever his name was. I thought he was a great villain, and I wish they would have made. I wish they just didn't have to abide by this Marvel blueprint where they have to have this big CGI, everything's blowing up type of war scene in the final act of the movie. Like, I just didn't think that was necessary. Like, you have a great villain here. Make that your big climax. Make it to be something more to do with him. It wasn't really to do with him. It was this big other monster that came out of nowhere that they had to go after. Like, that to me was like the weakest part of the movie. Like this, I get that they have to do these things, but why? Why do we have to keep doing these? Like, why can't we just have a grounded character, a grounded boss battle, if you will? Like, why does everything, like, same thing with Eternals, and we'll get to that in a second. Like, this, it was the same thing. It just turned into be this big, huge CGI fest at the end. That I get that that's what the Marvel movies are. I just wish that they didn't feel like they have to do that every single movie. I think both of those movies were, in my opinion, I think both of those movies were hurt by those scenes at the end. So that was really my big negative takeaway with Shang-Chi. Trying to see if I wrote any sort of a review here that might pique my remembrance. I don't remember if I wrote anything about this or not. I don't know. Either way, I just really enjoyed it.
I agree. When he was hitting the wall, when he was trying to break open the barrier, I kind of thought they would have stopped him and it would have come down to everybody versus him. That's what I thought was going to happen, which maybe would have been better. You wouldn't have to have the dragon fight scene and all that. If it would have came down to that, or maybe he churns, maybe they figure out he becomes a good guy. Like, I think that could have been another avenue that you could have went down, I guess, instead of like, oh, we're going to have this other thing come out. He dies, then they got to kill this thing. So I get it, but like, if that's the weakest part of the movie, they're doing their job too. But yes,
I agree.
They could have made it to where they stopped him, and now it's just versus him, and see what happens.
I agree.
A good movie. It didn't feel like a Marvel movie. Then we get the end credit scene where now we see how it's going to slowly tie in.
Well, that's the other thing I did want to mention. I just because of this is where we are, and I think I talked about this when we talked about Black Widow. My whole thing with these movies is how is this going to progress the greater story? I don't think that's how I should be viewing these movies, but it is. Like we're 20, however many movies deep into this thing, and now 3 TV shows. Like every one of these movies I sit in, I watch, I think, how is this progressing the greater story? With Black Widow, other than introducing a few new characters that, other than Yelena, may or may not ever show up again, how is that progressing the story? It didn't. It really didn't, other than introducing her as, I guess, the new Black Widow. With this movie, it really wasn't until the very, I was asking myself this for the first like hour of the movie. I honestly forgot I was in an MCU movie. Then once it kind of clicked on me again, I'm like, okay, well, how is this going to advance this story? And it really wasn't until that very end where Wong shows back up that we realize, okay, this is how they're going to tie it into something. Same thing kind of with Eternals. My whole thing was like, okay, cool. How is this advancing the MCU storyline? That's not fair for all these movies. All these movies need to be viewed as their own separate entity. But unfortunately, they're just a part of the big Marvel machine. And that's how I'm going to view all these movies now is, how are you advancing the greater MCU storyline? Because that's what I care about at this point. Yes, I want to view these movies as they are, but I also I'm invested in what's going to happen next. I've always been about what's going to happen next. And that's just how I view these movies, and it's unfortunate. But for both of those movies, it took a really long time for me to realize, oh, this is how they're going to turn it into something else.
I did the same thing in Shang Chi, because even Eternals, I had no idea besides they've been there, they watch things, what's happening. Again, our theory, at least my theory, was the multiverse happened. Well, obviously,
right.
Spoiler alert, wrong. It has nothing to do with it. As far as we know. I did the same thing with Shang Chi. I was like, okay, what in the world does this have to do with what's going on now? Now, and we can start talking about Eternals now. Then when I went into Eternals, because of how they advertised it, they said Marvel will change forever. So I went into that movie saying, okay, view this as a movie that has nothing to do with what we know, because something's happening. But there were times where I'm watching this movie like, okay, when is an MCU tie-in going to happen? And you can even argue the end credit scene really had nothing to do with tying in the rest of the characters.
Are we talking about Eternals now?
Yeah, Eternals. Like,
oh yeah,
nothing. Huge spoiler alerts.
It had nothing to do with it. Now, eventually, they will do something, and we know we're going to get more of them showing up. But it almost felt forced. Even the references that they did make, like the way they referenced Captain America and the snap, like it just felt forced. Like it just did not feel like this should have been a Marvel movie. And
that was my
I don't know that I don't know that helped it or hurt it. But yeah, it was refreshing that they did a movie within the Marvel universe that was different and that was not directly tied to anything else. But at the same time, it just didn't really mesh with anything. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on Eternals, and I don't know if you're ready for those yet or not. But yeah, it really had nothing to do with it. And I guess until the very end, again, that seems to be the theme of really the last 3 MCU movies, is we don't really find out how these are going to advance the story along until the mid-credit or post-credit scene. Because WandaVision or Black Widow really wasn't that either until Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character showed up.
Yeah. So, no. But okay, Shang-Chi was a good movie. We finally see how it's maybe going to still, but even then though, what I liked was we know how it ties in, but we still don't know what his role is. We don't know anything about it, which is kind of refreshing. Of like, we have no idea when he's going to pop back up. No idea. Then Eternals. Now you and I you said you cut off from everything about reviews because you wanted to go in fresh.
Yeah.
The only I kind of did that, and I kind of didn't. The only review I allowed myself to read was like when people watched, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, people got to see it. And I read the only thing I read was the reason why people may not like this is because it's a slow moving movie at first. And I said, okay, it's a new movie. That's not going to deter me from hating the movie or whatever. You go back and watch the beginning Marvel movies, it's the same thing. You have to introduce the story, you have to introduce all of this. And then it said, another reason why people aren't going to like this is because we are moving away from everything that we do know. And we have to set up the second half of this MCU or whatever you want to call it. And it's not going to be a Marvel movie. It's not going to feel like a Marvel movie. So when I went in, I said, okay, I'm going to watch this movie as a movie. Try not to look for that thing that's going to tie it into Doctor Strange or Spider-Man or Iron Man or Captain America. But it's hard when they do force those little snippets like, who's going to lead the Avengers now? Oh, Thor followed me around when he was a kid. No, he doesn't return my phone calls, like that type of stuff. And I'm like, when you say that, then I'm looking into the movie. When they're on the airplane, did you see the old school Captain America shield in the background? When they're on the private jet?
I didn't notice that.
If you look in the back, there was in Captain America, when he had the first shield, when he was like the actor going around, it was hanging up in the back.
I didn't even notice that. Okay.
So,
yeah.
Like that type of thing. I mean, I love the movie. Don't get me wrong. I really liked the movie, but it was slow moving. It was very misleading. And then at the end, at the very end, you can't help yourself but go, okay, how is this going to take us into this direction?
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like how
yeah. So Eternals. my thing here.
It felt like a DC movie.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. So for things that I knew, because of things that I knew, and because of things that I had heard, I had very high expectations for Eternals. Reasons being, one, its director, Chloe Zhao, just won Best Director and Best Picture for her work on Nomadland last year. Reason being, number two, this cast is incredible. This is Selma Hayek, Angelina Jolie, Brian Tyree Henry, Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, Kit Harington. These are all great actors that it's a different group of people than Marvel has used before. And the third, I had flat out just heard that from one person on the internet that Marvel was saying this was their best movie they've ever done, basically along those lines. So when the premiere happened, I didn't want anything ruined for me. I went on to Twitter and I muted everything to do with Eternals. That does not mean that some things did not slip through the cracks. I did see stuff on YouTube. And so by the time that I actually went to the movie this past Thursday, my expectations had been lowered drastically because the things that had slipped through the cracks basically said critics hate this movie. So this is not Best Picture material like I had originally thought it might be, was hoping it might be. I'm glad that my expectations were lowered because had I walked into that movie expecting it to be a Best Picture contender, I would have walked out extremely disappointed. But since I walked in knowing that it wasn't that, I left the movie pretty pleased overall. I thought Eternals, I thought they took a lot of big swings, even big swings for the MCU. The MCU, as I've mentioned, has been fairly blueprinted out. They follow a lot of the same strokes in every movie. They are great about creating different types of movies, but they're all still following the same, they're all still following the same whatever, order of operations or whatever you want to call it, blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like Eternals took a lot of big swings. They did connect on some of those big swings. There was some that they did not connect on. I think that overall, it is a fine movie. It is nowhere near best thing they've ever done material. It is but it's a very different type of movie. It is more adult centric. Mm-hmm. This had a flat out sex scene in this movie. It was darker. This is not a movie for really the kids are going to enjoy. This is not a movie that's going to sell a lot of action figures. This is a Marvel movie for adults, really. Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of layers to this movie. Yet it has a very simplistic story, but there's still a lot to be had here. There's a lot of characters that we just have to be, that they're trying to introduce to us. There's a lot going on in this movie. And it's long. It's long. And I still don't think they did a very good job of using the time to their advantage to introducing people. I didn't really like how some of these characters were just in this movie for like 15 minutes at a time. Like Brian Tyree Henry, we meet him at the very beginning of the movie. Then he disappears for like 2 hours. And we don't see him again until they go to his house and recruit him to join the squad. Kumail Nanjiani, who is the comic relief, he's entertaining, he's fun. He just up and leaves in the end. And he's just gone. He's just not even in the final scene. Like, what's going on? I don't understand like why we're doing some of this stuff. I don't know. I had high expectations for Eternals. They were lowered. I'm glad they were lowered because it was not the movie that they thought it would be. I can see your DC comparison. Also, the whole Superman reference was very odd. Am I supposed to believe that Superman is a thing in the Marvel universe? Is he just referencing like a fictional character, like a comic? I don't know. Like, this is odd to me. Like, that was a strange line.
I forgot about that.
I don't know. I do want to watch it again. I do think it was interesting. As I said, I do think they took a lot of swings. Some that worked and some that didn't. I thought the cast for the most part was great when they were there, but a lot of them were just disappeared. I mean, yes, some of them died, but like the other ones that didn't die in the movie, they just weren't there for large chunks of the movie. I thought Kit Harington's character was super underutilized. Had no idea he was just going to be there to bookend this movie for 15 minutes at a time. Are you a Game of Thrones person at all? Did you ever watch the show?
I've never watched it.
It was just strange for me to see. I didn't watch it until like I binged it right before the last season started. So I'm not a lifer. I was not on board, but it was just very weird to see Richard Madden and Kit Harington standing there on screen together because they were brothers, quote unquote, in Game of Thrones, and it was just odd to see them on screen. I kind of laughed at that point, like, this is kind of funny. Yeah, I don't know if that's what you wanted me to say, but like that's just where I stand. I just had a lot of things with them. Like, I just don't know how this is supposed to work for me. And I don't know. I've read some things and I've heard some people talk about it. The whole thing with Chloe Zhao directing this movie was supposed to come out before the Oscars would have last year.
Right.
So it should have been Nomadland comes out, Eternals comes out, then the Oscars, where she theoretically wins her Oscar for Nomadland. But it didn't happen that way. This movie came out after the Oscars. So they were editing this movie as after she had won, or during this time that her Oscar campaign was going on. The MCU does not have Oscar-winning directors in their arsenal. They've had great directors, but nobody that they've ever had direct a movie is fresh off of a Best Picture nomination. So you have to think that she at that point has a lot more say in what's happening. Like, I just directed a Best Picture nominee. Let me have more of a say in how this movie is edited and put together, which is not normally. We've talked about the whole thing with The Rock and how he wanted more creative control than what Feige and Marvel wanted to give him. And I'm venturing to guess that Chloe was able to get more creative control in the post-production part of this movie because she had just won that Oscar. Than what normally would happen for an MCU movie. Now, did that make the movie better or worse? I don't know. It was it looked different than any other Marvel movie. It was a more visually stunning. I mean, the cinematography alone, like, that's just not something you see in these movies. They have great visual effects, great CGI. They've definitely had great shots, but like, just the scope and the cinematography of some of these shots is just like, this is not something that we have in these movies. So that stuff was great, but I just wonder if she ended up having more to do with it in post-production than a normal director would because of that. And I don't know that made it any better or any worse, but I just think it's something of note, really, when it comes down to it.
The reason why I say it felt like a DC movie was because when they would time jump backwards, and show what happened, it looked more colorful. And so I'm like, okay, this is Marvel. Then when they went back into where we were, there was a different color tone, in my opinion. And I'm like, okay, this is not as dark as a DC movie, but this feels like a DC movie when this happens. And the adult side of it, DC movies are a little more adult. And I think that's how Marvel made all their money was, we're going to gear towards younger generation up into our age. DC is like, oh, we're going to have more adult stuff going on.
I agree. I don't think that, and there were kids in my showing. I just don't think this is the first Marvel movie that I just don't think will appeal to the younger generation of Marvel fans. I don't see that happening. I mean, this isn't Iron Man or Spider-Man or Shang Chi, like these big action movies. This is not that. I mean, this is just more of an epic. I'm sure you haven't seen Dune yet, probably, have you? That just came in a few weeks ago. It's odd that these movies come out at the same time because these are both these are like the two biggest epic sci-fi slow burn type of movies we've had in a long time. Huge scale, big blockbuster, huge cast, and they're coming out within like 3 weeks of each other. Like, that's kind of odd. Like, that shouldn't have happened. Two different studios, and they're obviously trying to compete with each other, but it was just very odd. I think I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it, but it was just not what I was expecting. I don't think it was, and it wasn't. It was the big epic sci-fi cinema-esque, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, movie that I was expecting, but I just don't think the story as a whole was really worked for me. I don't know.
And again, I'm trying to figure out when some of this movie I think was filmed before COVID. And that's
it was all. Oh yeah, it was supposed to come out last year.
So it was okay.
I mean,
because I was trying to tell myself, like, okay, maybe why we don't see some of these characters, because I'm going into some, if you look at TV shows now and movies now, look how they're filmed, and you can kind of tell, like, because of COVID, they're doing things this way.
Yeah, and I thought about that too, but like, this is a Marvel movie, and I love Kumail Nanjiani. He's a funny actor. He's a great comedian. What does he have better to be doing? Like, that cannot be the reason that he's just gone for the last 45 minutes of this movie. They made such a big deal about how he got into such good physical shape for this movie. What's he off doing? Shooting Stuber 2? Like that was not the case there. It just isn't. That I do not buy that for a second, because I did think about that too. Like, why these people go missing. But like, other than Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek, yes, these are great actors that we're familiar with that have been doing things on both TV and film for a while, but they're not huge names. Like, this is their biggest. I mean, this is by far the most, other than the two Game of Thrones actors, which is a whole different thing. Like, this is the biggest movie that any of these people have ever been in. Like, other than, probably Angelina Jolie, but like, I don't know. Like, I thought about that too, but that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, there had to be some other reason as to why his character just says bye, and then he's just gone. Granted, I don't know what his particular skill set was going to help with, because they all had strange skill sets for what they were supposed to be doing. They were brought to Earth to protect this thing for thousands of years. One of them, like, I don't know, like, you create these Celestials created these Eternals to come do this, protect this Earth, and you create one of them that is forever a child, and you create one of them that's deaf. Like, that just doesn't make, like, I get that was more of them, from a production standpoint, trying to be more inclusive, but from the story standpoint, that makes no sense at all. Like, I don't know. I'm done venting. I'm done.
Well, because
I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine.
I mean, yeah, it's a good movie. I thought his character was going to come back, because that's Marvel's. Like, normally in a movie, when a guy leaves like that, that's a hero. Like, I'm just going to leave. I was expecting him to come back. I was just waiting for the comic relief side of it to come back. Then Lauren Ridloff, that played the deaf character, she's in The Walking Dead too.
Right.
So
right.
I know in The Walking Dead, she was gone for a while because she had to go film this movie.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if they had to refilm some of it during this off time of COVID.
I don't know. Yeah.
We'll get into the Marvel delayed. That's what I've heard about Doctor Strange. The reason why it's delayed is because they're refilming some of it. So like all this stuff, and it's whatever. But I'm glad I went into it. I'm really glad I read the review of like, you're not going to like it because it's not a true Marvel movie. And it kind of said, forget everything you know. And I said, okay, I'm going to walk into this just like a movie. I'm not going to look at it like a Marvel. And I'm glad I did, because it helped the movie. And I'm really glad that they had a twist. Like, one of these heroes is actually like pushing this along, and a huge twist. I'm really glad they had that. I guess the only other tie-in is a Celestial, because we've seen one, Peter Quill's dad was a Celestial.
Yeah, I thought there would be something more with that, but like, they don't even like reference. I don't know. That whole thing was strange.
You thought they would.
I thought there'd be more of a connection to that, and it was just like, it wasn't even really a thing.
Because he tried to take over the whole universe when he was planting those, plants all over, and I was waiting for a reference of like, oh, a Celestial went off and tried to do this or whatever, and they don't look the same. So that was another thing that kind of threw me for a loop, was this is a Celestial, and then like that type of stuff threw me for a loop.
Right.
And then the end credit scene, where he takes them and says, I'm going to look at your memory and decide if Earth should live. So now obviously they have to come back.
Yeah.
And then we get the post-credit scene with Thanos' brother, and I was like, oh, what is this? Like, that was huge, I thought.
Yeah. Harry Styles.
Harry Styles. What's his name in the thing? Star Fox? Is that his name? And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
That had a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe when he showed up.
Oh yeah. It was very much like, it was Guardians.
Was it wrong of me to hope that in the end credit scene that Thor would have shown up because of the reference earlier?
No, I think I knew Harry Styles was supposed to be in this. I think there was a big spoiler thing that was floating around the internet that I avoided because of my muting, but I knew he was supposed to be in the movie. But even when he showed up, I was like, wait a second, who is this? And I'm like, oh yeah, Harry Styles. But yeah, I figured somebody, like, this has to be one of the very first Marvel movies we've had in a long time that like somebody that we know isn't in there. I mean, I'm thinking like Shang Chi, we saw Wong. Black Widow obviously is a character we're familiar with. Spider-Man, like the last time we had a Captain Marvel, we saw Sam Jackson. Nick Fury was in that.
Even the post-credit scene, that post-credit scene set
Guardians really didn't have another an earlier MCU person in it, and that was an origin story. Spider-Man had Iron Man. Ant-Man had
Falcon.
Doctor Strange, wasn't Thor in Doctor Strange, or was Doctor Strange and Thor?
Both. At the end of Doctor Strange, it shows Thor sitting there, like in the post-credit scene.
Yeah, like this has to be like the first origin story we've had in a long time that does not feature any other character from that we're already familiar with. Right? Am I wrong? Like they reference them, but nobody actually shows up, which I think is strange. I mean, whatever, it's a different type of movie, and they just made that decision to not do it. But I was just fully expecting that because that's something we always see in these movies. We always see somebody that we know from a previous movie, and that just did not happen in here. So
that's why at the end, when he referenced Thor, like Thor followed me around as a kid and now he doesn't answer my calls and they're out in space, I thought like, well, then I was like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Oh yeah, Thor is thousands of years old. Like then it all kind of came back together. I kind of thought maybe he would have shown up at the end.
Yeah, that was probably the most logical one, but he's also off with the Guardians now and all that stuff. So whatever.
And then the next credit scene, I looked at it. I had no clue until they reported that the voice was the new Blade character.
Yeah, that's the one that I mentioned. I thought at first that it was Jeffrey Wright, who plays the Watcher in What If. That was the first thing I thought when I heard the voice. But yeah, there was the report that Chloe Zhao has confirmed. I think it was Chloe Zhao that confirmed that it was Mahershala Ali, I guess, who's going to be Blade. Okay, cool. That means Kit Harington's going to be in the new Blade movie. That's dope. Whatever. That's fun. I'm kind of excited for Blade. I never saw the original one, but I know that's another one that's going to be a more adult oriented. The first Blade movies were like rated R. So, I mean, I think this is going to be, I don't know that they'll have it rated R. I just don't know that I don't know that's a whole different topic, but they already have the Deadpool movies now that they're going to have to keep those rated R. So will they make Blade rated R? I think it's certainly an interesting question. I know that they've talked about Doctor Strange being a horror movie. I don't see that being rated R.
I see it being more of the zombie thing, maybe.
I don't think I wasn't saying that the zombies are going to show up in that movie. I'm just saying that the zombies, I think that's something they could use down the road.
I could see it being like the Morbius movie that's going to come out. That looks like a horror movie.
Could be. Maybe, but I don't think it'll be rated R. That's what I was getting at. Blade, I could see potentially being their first MCU R-rated movie.
Right.
But no, Doctor Strange, even though it'll be a horror movie, so to speak, which I use that term loosely because I just really doubt that. It won't be rated R. That's too much of a mainstream character for them to do that too. No. So,
but yeah, when the credits happened, first of all, like 5 people got up. There was not a lot of people in the theater I went to. They saw it in the IMAX one. I wasn't paying the money, so I saw in the normal. In the normal, there was like only like 25 of us. It was strange. But like 5 people got up and left, and everybody goes, "What are you doing? The credits are happening. You have to sit here and watch." So in the credit scenes, that's where I was waiting for another character. And when it showed the blade, I didn't even think because that referenced everything. He showed his sword, but then I was kind of waiting. Clue. You know who I was waiting for, and you're going to hop off. I was waiting for Doctor Strange or Wong.
Oh my God.
I thought it was Wong. I actually thought Wong would have shown up just because of the vibe I was getting. I was like, is Wong going to show up? Because
you just think Doctor Strange is supposed to show up in everything, don't you?
He's tied to everything.
That man has more than enough to do than show up in every single Marvel movie.
And they've got to film Sherlock Holmes season 4 or 5, whatever it is. They got to get back on that. But
okay, we're done.
I really kind of hoped it was like Wanda. Like now we get to tie in. I was kind of hoping, but it just or Mephisto. Part of me was like, okay, is that going to pop up?
No, it was. I don't know. It was. I think Thor was probably the most likely candidate to show up. But yeah, we've seen it now, and nobody did.
I wish it was.
We apparently got Mahershala Ali's voice. So, but
before we'll wrap up here. soon. I was kind of hoping it was Thor, and I really was hoping, because I walked out of the theater going, how cool would have been if Thor would have shown up and Thor would have known those people were on Earth. Like, I think that would have been a cool twist.
He might. I mean, they might reveal that at some point. I don't know.
And he's not Fat Thor anymore. Pictures came out. He's not Fat Thor anymore. Dang it.
Yeah, he dropped that weight.
Dang it.
What's next on your Google sheet?
I mean, I'm just mad that Marvel movies got delayed. I understand why, but
well, did you see the stuff about Black Panther that just came out?
They just
Black Panther.
Yeah, they're not.
They stopped altogether because Letitia Wright got hurt in August. Yeah. So that might have been part of the reason as to why they pushed everything back. I don't know. I know that there's because Doctor Strange is supposed to be the next one, right? After Spider-Man. Isn't that the first one in 2022?
Yeah, so Spider-Man comes out
before it.
Spider-Man's coming out.
Spider-Man is December.
And then Doctor Strange is now May 6th.
Is that so? That is the first one in 2022 is now all the way in May.
Yep. And then Thor comes out in July. Okay. Now. Because
yeah, I don't know the reasoning as to why they pushed all this stuff back, but sounds like I think the Black Panther thing was probably already an issue because they've had to rewrite it. They've had to rework that whole thing. It's
going to come out now November 11th.
Yep.
And I can see that getting pushed back.
Year from now.
But a guy I coach with, he's a big Marvel guy, and he had heard, and I couldn't find it. I didn't look too hard. Something about they may be refilming some of Doctor Strange. I have no idea if that's true.
I mean, it makes sense since it's the first one, and that's where they started the whole pushback. But I don't know. I have no idea.
But I'm so mad because I was going to come out because I told myself, okay, Spider-Man comes out in December. We don't have to wait terribly long to see the effects of Spider-Man in Doctor Strange because it's just immediately going to happen right after. But now we got to wait until May to figure it out. But I mean, to hold us over, we'll have Spider-Man. Hawkeye still coming out November 24th. I think that was it because Miss Marvel doesn't have a date yet. Moon Knight is coming out in 2022. She-Hulk, none of these have a date. Besides the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, that's December 2022.
Yeah.
That was I just wanted to say I was just really upset about it.
Yeah, I knew you would be.
I mean, the only other two things I had was theories from the Spider-Man trailer. And then if you wanted to redo I had a hard time with the MCU rankings because I was like, oh, wait a minute, I got to do the TV shows.
I
already did it.
I only said that because I have an ongoing list. One of the websites that I use for all my movie stuff. I just always have that going. So I tweeted it out yesterday and I had some people were talking to me about it. So I was like, this would be great for us to talk about tomorrow.
Now, you know what the sad thing is? If I make it tomorrow, it'll be different because I'll think about it a little.
No, that's fair. Did you actually not look at my tweet or did you find it?
I did not look.
Okay. So do you want me to just talk about my list and then you can just kind of give me your opinions on, where I'm right and where I'm wrong?
Yeah, you can give me yours. And then if you want me to give you mine, you could critique me on how bad it is. But
all right. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go line by line and then you tell me what you agree, what you don't agree with. Okay.
Or I'm going to pull up the two to help me look.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
No.
I don't want you to know.
Okay.
As I'm going through this.
Phones down, computers away.
I just want you to listen to me. If you want to look at your list as you're going through this,
all right,
and we can compare, but I will go line by line. Okay. So this list has 29 movies and shows. What If is for whatever reason not an option on this website. So What If is not in here. If I was going to do What If, it would probably be, I don't know, we'll get there. But 26 through 29. All right. And 20. So my last place, I have Thor: The Dark World. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, is the worst Marvel movie. 28, I have The Incredible Hulk, or if it's just called The Incredible Hulk. Mm-hmm. The Incredible Hulk is fine as a movie. It just does not fit in within the rest of the MCU, at all.
Nope.
Iron Man 3, I have it 27. and I have Iron Man 2 at 26. Not a huge fan of either of the Iron Man sequels. 25, I have Captain Marvel. I know this is a little low for what some people think. Basically, from this point up, I don't hate any of these movies. Set the record straight. Those bottom four, I'm not huge fans of. 25 and up, I enjoy all these movies. This is just the order I have them in. Captain Marvel, 25. Thor, 24. Avengers Age of Ultron, 23. That is kind of universally accepted as just not a very good movie. This is my first TV show that shows up, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I have it 22. Thought that was a fine TV show. I just didn't really know what they were doing with it. And then I have Black Widow at 21. I enjoyed Black Widow. I just, as I talked about on here, I thought it fell victim to awful timing when it came out. It should have came out 5 years ago. And the fact that it didn't, and we already knew the fate of this main character, I don't know. That's where I have it. Number 20. You're not going to like this one. I have it at number 20. I'm not even going to say it because you know what it is.
This has been a fun podcast. We're going to have to I'm going to meet Logan now.
I like Doctor Strange. I just don't love that movie. I know you do. I know you're a huge fan. It's probably like number 1 on your list.
No,
it's just not there. It's just not there for me. As I said, I enjoy all these movies. It should probably be a little higher than what it is, but I think it is where it is. I had the first Captain America at 19. I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 at 18. Yeah, I know. You have.
Continue.
Is that the only Marvel movie you own on DVD?
I got plenty of others. Don't you worry.
Oh, okay. I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 at 18. I have the Eternals at 17.
Oh.
Again, I enjoyed the Eternals. I think that it had the potential to be much, much higher on this list. But it just did not hit there. It did not get there for me. So I have Eternals at 17. Then I have Loki, part 1 of whatever they're doing with Loki. I have it 16. I know a lot of people really loved that show. I didn't hate it. I liked it. I just didn't really fall in love with it like some people did. Now I did like, I liked his character. I like Sylvie. I liked the introduction of King the Conqueror, but as a whole, that's where it sits. Top 15. I have Ant-Man and the Wasp at 15.
I
have Ant-Man. I have Ant-Man at 14. Back to back. I feel like these movies are fairly interchangeable to me. At 13, I have Spider-Man Far From Home. Was a fine sequel. It is where it is. From here on out, 12 and up are just my favorites. All of these. Some of these are fairly interchangeable. I have Iron Man at 12. I have Shang Chi at 11. Spider-Man Homecoming at 10. WandaVision. I loved WandaVision. I have WandaVision at 9. The original Avengers at 8. Captain America Civil War at 7. Thor Ragnarok at 6.
Ooh.
Captain America the Winter Soldier at 5. Avengers Endgame at 4. Guardians of the Galaxy number 3. For the record, it is my favorite Marvel movie, but when I came to putting this list together, I had to put it just slightly below the other two. The list that I tweeted out had my 1 and 2 different from what I'm going to tell you right now. I decided to switch them right before we started doing the show. I tweeted out that Black Panther was 1 and Infinity War was 2, but I switched that. I have Black Panther at 2 and Infinity War at 1. I think Black Panther is the best Marvel movie they've ever made. I think that Guardians is my favorite Marvel movie they've ever made. I think Infinity War is the second best and it's my second favorite. So for that reason, I put it at number 1.
All right. Believe it or not, I think
You agree with everything except Doctor Strange.
I think our bottom 8 or 10, somewhere in there, bottom 9 are pretty similar. It's when we start getting
bottom nine would be everything before everything after Doctor Strange. So
right.
yeah, that probably makes sense.
That's kind of where we kind of get thrown off. So
okay.
29 for me was Hulk. I really hated that movie. And no fault to anybody. That was way back at the beginning stages. Hated it. Thor: The Dark World did not do it for me. I had expectations when I first watched it. It's bad.
It's a bad movie.
Then I have Iron Man 2.
Yep.
At 27. 26, I had Captain Marvel.
Okay.
And then 25, I have Iron Man 3, because over time that I've rewatched Iron Man 3, I'm like, okay, it grew on me a little bit.
That's fair.
But Iron Man 2 is just bad. It's a bad movie.
Yep.
24 is Spider-Man Homecoming.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why that movie kind of annoys me. I don't know why.
That's okay. I understand.
I typed the wrong one. I put Far From Home, but I actually enjoy Far From Home.
Okay.
23, I put What If, only because it's entertaining. 22 was Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Okay.
21 was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now again, I don't hate it at all.
Yep, I'm with you. I know what you mean.
Number 20 for me, because I enjoy movies, unlike Logan, who puts Doctor Strange at 20. I put Avengers: Age of Ultron at 20.
Okay.
Number 19 was Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yep.
18 was Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Okay.
17 was Black Widow.
Okay.
16 is Thor.
Okay.
15 was Eternals.
Okay.
This is where maybe you will hop off. 14, I put WandaVision.
No, that's fine. I have no qualms with that.
13 was Shang-Chi, because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
12 was Avengers, like the original.
Yeah.
11 was Ant-Man.
Yep.
Now this is where 10, I put Black Panther.
That's fine. I know a lot of people that don't love that movie.
I like the movie. I maybe have to rewatch it more. But
it's not my favorite. I have it that high on my list because I do think it is probably I think it is the best movie they've made. That does not mean it's my favorite. It's not my favorite. But I do have it super high because when I put this list together, I consider both of those things, which I know a lot of people don't. I do. So that's why I have it as high as I do. But I know plenty of people that aren't in love with that movie. So my top 10 is fine.
Number 9, I put Loki.
Okay.
Number 8, I put Iron Man.
Yep, that's fair.
I think I'm missing a movie. Did I put something twice?
I think you got off somewhere because you started at 29, which is what I have, but you also added What If, which I didn't have in this. So somewhere you did
because I
something
changed
somewhere.
it. I originally had 30 and then I changed it.
You should have 30 if you're including What If.
Okay, so add a number to all that. So right now I'll say that's what I did. I'm going to do 2 number 8s here.
Okay.
Because I have Captain America, the first one, and Iron Man at 8, Captain America at 9.
Okay.
That's where I screwed up.
That's fine.
And then at number 7 would be Captain America Civil War.
That's where I have those
3.
Exactly.
I have those 3 together. Okay. Number 6 is Doctor Strange for me.
That's fair. I know a lot of people, not you, that also love that movie. So I think that's fine.
It's like Step Brothers, where I had to rewatch it. Doctor Strange, once I rewatch it, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It's a great movie. I was not trying to insinuate that it's not. It's just not as high on my list. But 6 is respectable for sure.
Number 5, I put Thor Ragnarok. That movie really grew on me. I didn't like it at first, but again, I had to really look at it. I go, I love this movie. Number 4 was Captain America Winter Soldier.
Yep.
Number 3 was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
2 was Endgame. 1 was Infinity War. I think Infinity War was their best movie by far.
Yep.
Endgame is not their best movie they've done, but the impact of it was huge.
Yep.
Like when I first watched it, I said it was one of the best movies I've ever seen. Then I went and rewatched it again, and I said, no, the impact was huge.
Yep.
It's not the best movie they've ever done.
No. Endgame will forever be one of the single greatest movie going experiences I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that movie, but Infinity War is the better movie. And I enjoyed it more as a movie. I think in terms of best and favorite, because I like to just insinuate that those two things are different. My top 3 favorite MCU movies would be Guardians, Infinity War, and then probably Endgame after that. Maybe Ragnarok. My top 3 best, I think, are Black Panther, Winter Soldier, and Infinity War.
Yeah, so
best made movies.
We're not crazy far off. I think
Doctor Strange, we're not.
And
we're not.
I think that's the one that was way off. And then I screwed up.
Yeah, that was the biggest difference we had. But yeah, I mean, I think we're right around the same place on most of these. So
that's what happened.
That's good.
I deleted Captain America to put in Loki up there, and then I forgot to check.
Yeah.
Then I screwed it up.
For What If, I would probably put What If and I don't know, I had Ultron, Thor, and Captain Marvel. It would probably be somewhere in there. So like 23, 24, 25, something like that.
The biggest one people have ever disagreed with me on is Spider-Man, because people loved the Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, the Spider-Man Homecoming was probably the strangest one, in my opinion, that you had. I don't think any of them are bad. I mean, any of these movies are bad other than maybe 4 of them, but
Thor and Hulk are terrible movies.
Yeah, they're
just terrible.
Thor: The Dark World it's not very good.
It's just
Hulk. I don't think Hulk is that bad of a movie. It just does not fit at all within the rest of the MCU. Like it just people call it the black. It is absolutely the black sheep of the MCU.
You want to talk about a movie that does not matter literally at all until the very last minute, and that credit scene when Iron and Tony Stark shows up literally meant nothing.
Yeah,
we think Eternals meant nothing, but it's going to mean something. Hulk literally meant nothing because we never had another solo one ever again. So it literally meant nothing.
I know.
But yeah,
I know.
Far off.
We're not far off. I'm sorry I don't love Doctor Strange as much. I don't dislike the movie, as I've said. I enjoy the Doctor Strange movie. I just don't.
I don't have the same love for it
I don't have the same love for it that you and a lot of other people have. That was one of the comments that I did get.
It's only ranked that high for me because of one, Benedict Cumberbatch. But if you actually look at Marvel, I think because it's going to have a huge impact, I think that's why I've started to rank it higher. Because of if you would ask me this when it first came out, I probably would have it ranked lower. But my mind is so fresh on where it's going, where Marvel is going, and it's going to have a big impact because they've already referenced it a lot of stuff. You have to go back and rewatch it. Phrases that are said in that movie have come back. So it's like, I think that's why it's ranked higher.
Oh, I mean, it's very important, especially for everything that's happening from now on. I mean, I think Doctor Strange is going to have a huge impact in some of this stuff. At the time that it came out, I'm not sure it had a huge impact.
Right.
But from the future, I mean, from Endgame and all that stuff, it had a huge impact. So I'm with you. All right.
Any final thoughts? The next thing that comes out is Hawkeye.
Coming up here real soon, and then Spider-Man. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that trailer.
I know you got to go. I just know Mephisto's probably involved. We're all going to lose.
No, my whole thing with Spider-Man, you mentioned it. I think what they're going to do is they are setting up for him to leave the MCU. I think Sony is going to take him back. They're going to have this big hurrah as his last movie in the MCU. We still haven't had confirmation, but Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are probably going to be in this movie, as are Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx, and I don't know how many other villains from the other Spider-Man movies. They're all going to be in this big movie, and that'll be the last. Now, he supposedly does still have one more movie on his MCU contract. It's not a standalone Spider-Man movie, but supposedly Tom Holland is supposed to show up in one other future MCU project. Don't know what that is. Don't know how it's going to tie in. But I believe they're going to use the multiverse as a way to get him out of the MCU. So Sony can have him back and Sony can make all the money off of them and probably screw it up. But I don't know, whatever. They've done some good things with Spider-Man. They've done some bad things with Spider-Man. Who knows?
The only thing is, and this movie last thing, the reason why I really am going to relook at the What If Doctor Strange is because of the theories of, is this really the Doctor Strange that we have watched? Because right when that came out, the theory was, why is he being reckless with a spell? Because then we see the train from the original one of the original Spider-Mans that he's on. And so that's the big thing. Is this really Doctor Strange? Is it Mephisto? When you see a wink in the MCU, that means the opposite of what's happening. And
I don't know what's happening there. There's a lot of strange things.
I actually think it is Doctor Strange, but for the off chance that it's really not him or something, because again, we've already torn the multiverse is torn open at this point in time. So another reason why could this be a different Doctor Strange is what happened and what if actually happened. Because it's rumored that what's her face from Doctor Strange is coming back.
Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, the ancient one.
Oh, Tilda Swinton. Yeah.
It's rumored that she's coming back either not in Spider-Man, but in the Multiverse of Madness. And then what if she was the reason why there was two Doctor Stranges? Did this already, like, that's what I'm going to just look at. Not saying it's going to happen, but I want in the back of my mind of.
You are diving deep into theories.
No, that's as far as I go. That's as far as I go.
I know.
And I'm done with it. We will see Mephisto. We will see Ghost Rider at some point. But that's it. That's all.
All right. Good talk.
Those were our final thoughts, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Did you watch you probably haven't. You have Disney Plus now, right? You do have Disney Plus.
Yeah.
You got to watch Jungle Cruise. It'll be on Disney Plus for free. Your boy The Rock.
That's the other movie I didn't get to go watch. That and Venom.
It'll be on Disney Plus on November 12th for you to watch. So
the day before my birthday. So that's my birthday gift to myself.
I enjoyed it. It wasn't as I was expecting it to be a little more, but I enjoyed it. But anyway, all right.
All right.
That's it.
All right. Well, that's it. Blouses.